In this episode, we tackle the hard problem of defining what a civilization is. This is not easy since the concept itself consists of many interrelated concepts. Our definition overlaps significantly with other scholars' conclusions. We believe that a civilization should strive to preserve certain values. In addition, it should seek to prevent existential risks that might threaten its continued survival. We outline these risks in separate videos, but they include the prevention of totalitarianism and bad forms of governance. What is civilization? There are many ideas as to what constitutes a civilization. In the pejorative sense, it refers to the social organization and culture of a particular geographic region. Examples of such civilizations include the Mayans, ancient Greeks, and the Ottomans. But the more interesting question is what makes a civilization great? Can we point out the characteristics of a great civilization? Correspondingly, can we say what makes for an evil empire? These are important questions. If we can identify such traits, then we can work to promote them and help prevent ourselves from falling into barbarism and chaos. Here I would like to lay out the basic concepts that underlie a civilized culture. Civilization can be thought of as a temple that rests on several key pillars. These pillars support the temple. Each pillar can be thought of as a value or a goal towards which a civilization should strive. However, these values are not independent of each other. They do, in fact, interact in complex ways. For example, someone who values truth will be more successful and productive. In turn, a society based on freedom and democracy generates more wealth and happiness. In what follows, we will briefly describe each of what I call these value pillars. Reality exists. There is one knowable reality that is physical and material. This requires us to put aside unproven philosophical ideas like dualism, the multiverse, or that we are living in a computer simulation. Reality is not what we want it to be. It just is, and exists independent of our desires or wishes. This is the concept of objectivity. If we are instead subjective and think that we each perceive or create our own reality, then communication and cooperation between people becomes impossible. Truth is being able to know reality. It is achieved through the application of intelligence, logic, reason, and the scientific method. Truth is not achieved through intuition, gut feelings, or emotions. This is not to say that these don't have their proper place, but they are not a valid means for understanding the world. A civilization must have respect for facts and evidence-based methods when making policy decisions. Freedom is probably the most important foundation of a just society. It is the condition that allows people to pursue their own ends without interference. It presupposes that each individual is autonomous and independent, being capable of determining their own unique goals and of following them. The absence of freedom is slavery, either to the state or to others. People are naturally creative and love to build and experiment. Look at children who play for the sheer joy of it. If individuals are free and allowed to express their interests, then they are productive, meaning they create things of worth. The sense of self-esteem that comes from such achievements is part of what makes us happy. The appreciation of other people's creations is also a source of happiness to us all. Think of every book you've ever read, every movie you've ever seen, or song you've listened to. Each of those was created by a person expressing their values and uniqueness. A civilization is often judged based on the quality of its accomplishments in all fields from engineering to the arts. Think of the Roman Colosseum, French Impressionist paintings, or Einstein's theory of relativity. These accomplishments, however, must be based on the pursuit of excellence in a free society and not on slavery or subjugation. Most of us want to learn more about the world. In order to satisfy this curiosity, we explore by reading, walking around a city, or having discussions with friends. Likewise, a civilization should be curious and expansive, exploring the universe around it. But this expansion isn't to conquer territory or plant a flag. It's to acquire knowledge and understanding. Nations need to engage with surrounding cultures and exchange knowledge, goods, and services. Free trade and open borders are the rule here, not war. Just as we can all learn from each other, civilizations can as well. A curious civilization is naturally multicultural and diverse. It has the cuisine, languages, music, and accomplishments of the entire world. Globalization is thus desirable, but it must be balanced against national sovereignty and safety. Ideally, we would all be citizens of the world, competing and cooperating on a planetary scale. What matters more than nationhood are that proper principles and institutions govern social interaction. When we look at civilization, we often mistake it for the wrong things. Conquering and the lust for power are the exact opposite of civilization. Nations that seek to become empires or to forcibly extend their rule over others usually achieve nothing except destruction and murder. Alexander the Great was not so great. Although Napoleon may have achieved some societal reforms, this is nothing compared to the wars and suffering he inflicted on Europe. This gets us to another aspect of civilization. It is not about the concentration of power. When power accumulates too much in one person or organization, it is often used to detrimental effect. In an ideal society, power is distributed and counterbalanced as much as possible. This means there should always be competing power centers like government, religion, and the free market that have separate spheres of influence. Civilized societies must protect individuals against the abuse of power. No person or organization can be allowed to force a free-thinking adult to do something against their will, that is, unless it causes harm to others. This is why laws are formulated. A civilized society must have laws whose aims are to prevent harm, but to allow for freedom of action. No doubt this is a delicate balancing act, but it has been and can be done. Too many laws result in bureaucracy, which stifles innovation. This means that laws and regulation must be kept to a minimum to whatever extent possible. Too few laws, on the other hand, can also be bad and result in anarchy and chaos. Civilized countries leave individuals free to live their own lives, make their own decisions, and pursue their own dreams. They defend the concept of individual rights, as is codified, for example, in the United States Bill of Rights. This document ensures that the legal system protects the right to free speech, free assembly, freedom of religion, and so on. Countries that try to regulate and control their citizens are therefore uncivilized. In modern China, all citizens are monitored by their online activity and assigned a social credit score. They are then rewarded or punished as deemed fit by the state. Any government that acts this way and treats their citizens as pawns to be manipulated is simply barbaric. Democracy is the worst form of government, except for the others that have been tried from time to time, goes the saying. This quote by Winston Churchill demonstrates that democracy as a political system is far from perfect, but it is better than any of the alternatives. Civilized countries are democracies because democracies distribute power through a system of checks and balances. This helps to prevent any one person or party from taking over. Democracies ideally are governed by their citizenry and not by politicians. In other words, power comes from the bottom and not from the top. Free markets in which there is private ownership of capital are better. This is in contrast to fascist or communist governments where the state manages the economy. Capitalist nations have been shown to generate more wealth per capita than alternative state economies that are redistributive in nature and which impose higher taxation to provide social services. It is better to have competing corporations provide services because the government is, by definition, a monopoly. Capitalism is thus another example of decentralizing societal power. Technology by itself is neutral, but can be put towards good or evil purposes. To illustrate, one can use pharmaceutical techniques to create chemical weapons and use them to kill people, or employ those same methods to create medication to treat diseases. A civilization, therefore, should use technology for ethical goals. Technological progress is happening faster and faster. We are now in the midst of ever more powerful AI programs, quantum computers, and advanced robotics. These technologies hold great promise and great peril. How we use them going forward can make the difference between a utopia or a dystopia. A civilization must study and weigh the consequences of advanced technologies. This process must be transparent and democratic, with individuals making the decisions as to how they should be employed. We are already seeing how autocratic regimes can use technology to oppress and control. The result of this, if left unchecked, could be an Orwellian nightmare. To prevent this, technological research should not be banned, as this would only leave the advantage to undemocratic adversaries. It must continue, but with a calculated assessment of the risks and benefits. Also, for the first time in human history, we are approaching a technological inflection point. Up until now, technology has been used primarily to manipulate the environment or to treat disorders. But inventions like brain-computer interfaces and genetic engineering are allowing us for the first time to change human nature itself. This is called augmentation or enhancement, and will allow us to make people stronger, smarter, and even more ethical. This next stage in human evolution is to be welcomed and may even be the key to our continued survival. In a nutshell, a civilization is one that values truth, freedom, achievement, and curiosity. A civilization should explore the universe around it, learning, assimilating, interacting, but not conquering. It should have a democratic and free market system where individual rights are protected and where innovation and wealth can grow. Most importantly, power should be decentralized and distributed to prevent tyranny. Civilizations must be governed by rule of law, where these laws can be changed as needed. And finally, civilizations must continue to use technology to both improve our own natures and to prevent the occurrence of extinction level events. These are the things we should be fighting for. That concludes this episode of the Saving Civilization podcast. We have an entire playlist devoted to the concept of civilization. Please see these other videos to learn more about historical conceptions and quantitative metrics of civilization. If you are interested in the threats facing modern society, then we encourage you to watch the videos in our existential risk playlist. That is all for now. Thanks for listening.